Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining me today. Super excited to talk to you, man. I've really admired Fast Forward for a long time, what the organization's mission and vision is. And, tech for nonprofits is it's an interesting term. It's not necessarily new, but I think with the advent of AI, I think we're starting to really see some progress where, tech is starting to penetrate the world of nonprofits, unlike ever before. So before we get into sort of the AI report that you and the team just released, talk a little bit about Fast Forward in general, and maybe for those who don't know what it is, what's sort of its overall mission and vision?
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate you reaching out. It's fun to be on the show. Fast Forward started 12 years ago. You had Shannon on the show a couple years ago. She's my co-founder, and my background is in tech, and Shannon's is in nonprofit. And we brought our two worlds together to create what's essentially like a Y Combinator for nonprofits, a tech accelerator program that's geared toward early stage organizations that look like tech startups, but they're set up as nonprofits. And like you said, I mean, they are traditionally two separate worlds. People almost like oil and water. I think of it more like chocolate and peanut butter. They're different, but like actually they go well together. So for over a decade now, we've had over 100 nonprofits go through our accelerator program. Those organizations are now impacting hundreds of millions of lives. And so it's really, really interesting to see how they've been able to leverage technology in the same way that for-profits do to help them scale. And the real insights have been in the wide variety of ways that technology can be helpful across issue areas, from health to education, climate, and economic mobility, and how it's making an impact all around the world.
You mentioned sort of your tech background. Do you mind just giving us an overview of a little bit your background, and maybe how did that eventually weave its way into, putting your talents and skills into the nonprofit world? How'd that happen?
My career is mostly in tech and tech startups. And I started my own company that after it was acquired, I was trying to figure out what kind of company to start next. And when I was out as basically like an entrepreneur in residence, thinking about what kind of organization I wanted to do next, I found myself actually going to demo days for tech accelerator programs and meeting with entrepreneurs, and just grew surprised, frustrated that I didn't see. I actually was in some ways felt like I was meeting lots of entrepreneurs who had these incredible solutions and they weren't sure what problem they were solving. And I really found myself wishing that I met more people who were very clear on the problem we're solving. At that time, there were tech accelerators everywhere. There are thousands of them. AngelList was taking off, and even on the AngelList platform, there were thousands of tech accelerator programs for for-profit startups, but none for nonprofit startups. And this is around the same time that Sal Khan was early in his Khan Academy journey. He was educating millions of students for the cost of a small elementary school, but he wasn't raising any money. There were no programs for him. And his wife had told him that he could do it for a year, and then he needed to get a real job. So it just felt like there should be more of those. Like, we need to find ways to support more Khan Academies, more Wikipedias, more organizations that are set up as really interesting, helpful, tech-based organizations, but as nonprofits. And that's how Fast Forward was born.
Love it. Talk a little bit about startups in general, and you being in Silicon Valley. You've probably heard the word AI for a while now, and it's maybe sort of hit the general public a little bit more recently. Talk about when did Fast Forward start to incorporate the idea of really talking about AI for nonprofits and really kind of trying to create a platform, let's say, for nonprofits, and not really specifically AI. Tech is AI at this point, right? I think they almost coexist with each other. But how's that maturation been for you as an organization, really starting to lean in on, okay, this is going to be the future, and we have to dedicate, our organization to helping nonprofits navigate.
We started supporting what we now call AI-powered nonprofits 10 years ago in 2015. And you're right, at that time, they were really just what we were calling tech nonprofits. We're using the technologies of the time, machine learning, natural language processing. But almost half of what was our 2015 cohort is now AI-powered nonprofits. Yeah. And it was born from the same reason that we started Fast Forward, which was that I was seeing that, while I was seeing really interesting tech and innovation and the latest technologies applied to problems in the for-profit space. The nonprofit space did seem to be behind in eating glass. And so we wanted, we started Fast Forward to have more of the then latest technologies, the internet, mobile apps brought to the nonprofit space. And now that means AI. So for us, 2 years ago, we started our AI for Humanity program, even though we've been working in the space since 2015. And a lot of the organizations today, I would say about half of all of our alumni actually today consider themselves AI powered nonprofits. Most of the applicants we get at this point, like 80% of 8 of the 10 of this year's accelerator cohort were AI powered nonprofits. So the growth in that space and the adoption of the technologies really just been incredible.
Yeah, that goes along with sort of the Y Combinator feel of it.
Mhm.
Everybody that applies, it's 90% AI startups, right? Over there. So even on the for-profit side, that's a really interesting inflection point where you see both the nonprofit world and traditional for-profit startups building on the same stacks, right? Building technically the same, let's say, but the problems that they're solving might be, it's just a little different.
Yeah, that's right. Like the organizations we work with are addressing market failures rather than market opportunities.
Mhm.
But technologies enable solutions that work for both. And the organizations we see starting today, you're right, like they're leveraging the latest tools. I mean, obviously they're building upon stuff that was built previously.
Yep.
But what's new about the world is AI. So it's enabling a whole new set of organizations to be created.
Can you give us an idea of maybe pick one, two, or three of these AI powered nonprofits so we can get an idea of what comes out of the accelerator or what comes in the door at Fast Forward and sort of what comes out? Not necessarily your favorites, but just an idea of what people are building.
This year we had a couple interesting ones that are probably worth sharing. For example, we had an organization called Vigilant that makes it easy for non-trained folks like community health workers to screen patients for blindness. And so the way it works is they have a software that sits on top of a smartphone,
Hmm.
and by building technology that enables them to read the front of the eye, which turns out to be harder than the back of the eye because of the curvature,
Okay.
they're able to determine what's causing the blindness in individuals in a way that for like $20 is replacing a machine that costs tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So then low resource settings, they can much more quickly and cheaply and effectively triage who needs a surgery and how to best support them.
Give us one more that's interesting.
There's a lot. I mean, this week we hosted a conference called Fund AI. We had a couple hundred philanthropic funders gather in San Francisco
Amazing.
to learn more about AI and how it might impact their work and the issue areas they care about and how to best support organizations. And some of that's operational efficiency and some of that's programming. Closer for the event was Al Gore, who for many decades now has cared about climate, but he's a co-founder of an organization called Climate Trace, which is related actually to someone from our 2015 cohort named Watt Time. So Watt Time has organized this coalition of dozens of nonprofits to collect all different kinds of environmental data
Hmm.
in essentially real time and make it publicly available. So they collect through satellites and other ways information on CO2 emissions, methane emissions, and they just recently at this year's COP announced particulate emissions.
Okay.
And so they're able to see from pictures mostly what's actually going on in the world, not what people are self-reporting.
Yeah.
What we can see is happening. It's just a really fascinating. I mean, there are literally trillions of data points that they're collecting that humans can never analyze, that the machines can process and then make publicly available, so we get a sense of where our planet is headed.
Let's get into the AI report. You guys just released this AI for Humanity report. I guess talk about why create it and what were some of the questions that you sort of asked? What was sort of the information you got back? Was there anything shocking, or what were some of the most interesting tidbits and information from the report that you can share?
Last year, we'd done a landscape analysis. We'd surveyed a lot of the AI powered nonprofits we knew about to get a sense of how they were using AI. And we'd created a framework for categorizing the ways people were using AI. But we felt like we still didn't really have a solid sense on how organizations were using and what the spread is in terms of how people were approaching it. And so we decided to go out and ask. We asked a couple hundred organizations, both about their AI in their internal operations, and for the ones that it was appropriate, like the ones who were using AI in their like beneficiary facing products. So the ones who are using it for internal operations, we call in the report AI assisted nonprofits.
Okay.
And the ones who are using AI to actually deliver their impact directly, we call AI powered nonprofits. And both are incredibly impactful. I mean, whether using AI like a normal consumer, improving your operations, making yourself more efficient,
Hmm.
changing the way maybe you write reports or apply for grants or manage your finances is absolutely helpful and critical for resource constrained organizations. And then the kinds of organizations we've talked about so far, like those analyzing imagery, whether that's for climate or vision, those would fall for us in the category of AI powered nonprofits, just like enabling a whole new class of impact that like goes beyond what humans can scale by providing those people new tools. There are a lot of folks, just as you might imagine, who use the LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini to create communications. So whether that's emails, grant reports, grant applications,
Hmm.
different reports they might be writing, that is super common, just like it is with
Yeah.
students and anyone in the working world. I mean, the tools are very helpful in helping us think through ideas, brainstorm, structure information, and even do editing and push stuff towards coherent final product. And so yeah, it's everything from take this 500 word answer from a previous application I've submitted and cut it down to 300 words, or take all this information that I received from my most recent conference call and create action items. It's all the things you might see any small resource constrained organizations using AI.
Do you think that, I've talked to a lot of nonprofits and through other startups I'm involved with. Do you think that, because I imagine you pulled just people that came from the accelerator from Fast Forward, not maybe legacy, nonprofit organizations. Do you think that they fact of just they're sort of quote unquote AI native, right? As the founder or, the leadership. Do you see that they will make infinitely more progress and maybe take over some of the legacy nonprofits that just can't, it's just like any big company, like we go back to startups all the time, right? Startups eventually replace legacy companies and institutions just because they can move a lot faster. Do you see that happening? Do you think that's possible in the nonprofit space that nonprofit startups, Airbnb eventually takes over Marriott and Market Cap, right? For example, or there's obviously Netflix and Blockbuster, right? There's all these things that replace Tesla and GM, right? There's all these startups that come and sort of replace these sort of institutions. Do you think something like that can happen with nonprofit startups?
That's a really interesting question. There are aspects I think that we will see where, look, like human expertise is really expensive. So if you're looking for a teacher or a doctor or a therapist, these things are out of reach of a lot of people in the world. And AI does hold the potential to give people access to that. So we do see, for example, an organization who's in our program almost a decade ago, like Career Village,
Hmm.
was designed to provide career advice and career navigation to young people. I mean, most people don't have access to career counselors. A lot of kids don't know someone who works in an office. And so for years, they provide information online. It's almost like a Quora or Stack Overflow.
Yep.
Young folks who can ask questions and get answers on how they can navigate to careers in nursing or whatever interests are. They've been able to take that data that they've accumulated over 15 years and make it available through a more conversational interface because of LLMs. And so, I mean, yes, there's a chance that it could replace some existing organizations based on the fact that it's like more efficient and cost effective and scalable. But I think realistically, in many cases, they are addressing areas where there actually is a huge shortage, right? So
Gotcha.
there, in so many cases now, uh, a real lack of, I mean, in this case, career counselors for young people, just like there's a shortage of doctors and teachers and other folks in many parts of the world. The hope, really, and my expectation is, and the hope for AI is that it does provide opportunity and access to a lot of these resources that are pretty expensive for out of reach for many people.
You have one of the best tech accelerators for nonprofits probably in the world, I would say. Has that curriculum changed at all because AI has sort of taken over, every aspect of building, uh, a nonprofit? Talk about the accelerator. What goes into that? Is it in person? Is it online? What's the application cycle? It's one of the most important things I think the nonprofit sector has right now. And for those who aren't aware of it, I just want to make them aware.
The program now is a good mix of in person and online. We kick off in person for about a week in San Francisco, and the program concludes about 3 months later with a demo day and some programming again in San Francisco. The interim programming is mostly online, and we actually now support the organizations beyond demo day at Fast Forward. So we consider them part of our investment portfolio, even though
Yeah.
we don't equity because they're nonprofits, but we intend to support them forever. It turns out that starting an organization is not the only hard part, that there are constant hurdles throughout the entrepreneurial journey. And we want to be there to support them, and we want them to be able to support each other. A big part of Fast Forward now that we have so many organizations in our community is really helping them support each other. The curriculum itself has evolved a little, but really it's mostly the same. The organizations are really focused on the problems. And for many of them, AI is part of the solution, but the challenges in running and growing organizations remain the same. Hiring a team,
Hmm.
raising funding, telling your story, finding distribution channels to reach customers. So a lot of the programming, even if the way they're building the tool, if they're building software, maybe that's easier because they're able to use AI to build the software, or their AI tools that can help communicate directly with their users, translate, analyze images. Those technologies adjust and will continue to adjust over time. But the challenges of these entrepreneurs basically have chosen a hard path. I mean, entrepreneurship is hard anyway for anyone, but nonprofit entrepreneurship, I feel like, is especially difficult. And they have all the same challenges of tech startups and all the challenges of nonprofits. And so that's where most of our time is spent.
So organizations can come from outside San Francisco and apply, or is it mostly Bay Area?
We mostly see groups outside of San Francisco.
Nice.
It's basically only about like one of last year's 10 was based in San Francisco. And I think the reason for that is innovation's happening everywhere.
Hmm.
There are problems everywhere where tech can help. And the organizations, the way we've set up the program, they benefit a lot from building their networks and connections with folks in the tech communities and the philanthropic ecosystem in the US. So in many ways, the founders we support they most often have personal experience with the problems they're solving. And that's hard for us because we're generalists. So we look to them to be experts in that. But many of them lack, they might have a PhD in ophthalmology, but have never started
Right.
an organization before.
Right.
And never fundraised before and never set up a nonprofit before, or hired before. And so for them and for us, that's like the perfect match where they're really deep on the problem and have this idea for a solution, and we can help them navigate their entrepreneurial journey.
So they don't have to be necessarily have an organization already. They don't necessarily have to be, super tech native, or a software engineer. They can come with sort of an idea, obviously a background in the space, a significant, background in the space that, would help would help in starting something. They obviously see a problem. So is that sort of the phase a person or organization would be in to apply? Is it kind of all over the place?
It is a bit all over the place. We do have super technical people. We have very entrepreneurial people. We have people who are very close to the problem. And, usually maybe like you'd see in a for-profit too, I think in many cases, people come in with co-founders to complement. So just like Shannon and I came with our own perspectives in order to create what became Fast Forward. I think we do see solo founders. I think in many cases in our space, we see a lot of folks coming in as a team,
Hmm.
different perspectives and different skill sets. And that makes it easier for them in some ways to navigate all the challenges. They can divide up all the responsibilities
Yeah.
and work that comes with trying to get an organization off the ground.
So it's been 12 years. What are some of the goals and successes for, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years might be a little long. So maybe the next like 3 to 5 years. What are some of the goals and successes and you and the team would like to achieve?
5 to 10 years does feel far out, given that people do think that AI is going to take over maybe by 2030. It doesn't give us that much time. It's hard to imagine what the world was like. I mean, even a few years ago, we didn't really have LLMs like we have today. And for us, I'm really interested to see how we choose to use AI, and if the world decides to make it a tool to make us more equitable or more
Mm,
inequitable,
hmm.
and how certainly there's so much money, hundreds of billions, quite possibly $1 trillion going into AI infrastructure investment over the next few years, with the promise that it's going to create all these benefits for society. And I think we're still early and we don't really know. But I mean, it does seem like it's so much easier now to build tech products. Engineers at places like Anthropic say that AI is writing 90% of their code. And I think that the kind of tools we see today are so much more advanced than the ones we saw 1 or 2 years ago. You know, it really could make it possible for someone with absolutely no technical experience to launch their own AI powered nonprofits. I mean, the vibe coding and other tools just make it so much easier to like have a vision for a tool you want to build and get it created. So, like in the last couple of years, we used to have 2 years ago, we had 200 people apply to the accelerator, then 400, this year, 800.
Wow.
And we've also seen incredible growth in the number of AI powered nonprofits, which from essentially 0 2 years ago was like 17 to 200 to 400. So I think, like, given that really essentially over half of this year's applicants are AI powered nonprofits, like 400 of the 800, that seems to be driving a lot of the growth. I'm just curious to see like what that means for. I mean, I'm sure we'll see the same in for profits too. People talk about billion-dollar companies with no employees or one
Few
employee,
people, yeah, yeah. Well, Instagram only had 12 employees, and they sold for 1 billion, and that was what, 15
WhatsApp.
years.
I mean, there are a lot of examples
It,
before AI,
it's happened pre-AI, so it will definitely happen post-AI.
right? And I think we could see the same thing in the nonprofit space, where it's like someone who doesn't know how to code,
Yep.
is all of a sudden creating, and isn't like super deep technically, is able to create technology solutions for problems that they saw in order to create the world that they want us to have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks to you and the team for, the last decade really building, your own organization and I think building something that is super unique in the space. And I'm always excited to have, technical people on in the nonprofit world because I think it's such an important role and just advancement that I think a lot of our issues I think can be solved. And look, I'm a technologist, so like I believe in this stuff, and I'm a little biased for sure. But I do believe the capabilities of it are going to be there, and it's just like you said, the decision that we make of how we want to use this going forward. If it's going to be sort of a net benefit, or if it's just going to, create more of the same problems we have at a larger scale. So it definitely could go either way. But definitely want to just say thanks to you and the team for building the organization, the accelerator. I recommend anybody, go to the website. We'll have it all in the show notes, but they have, tech job board, the accelerator information. They have a directory of all AI powered nonprofits there, which is an amazing resource. Again, you and the team are just doing some awesome things, and best of luck for the next decade.
Thanks, Grant. Really appreciate it.